I'm Dr. Melita Tate with Grassroots Healthcare, and we're joining you today live from our clinic airing on Google. And thank you so much for viewing our page and joining our show. We're doing a show today called Sugarfree Freedom, and it was inspired by our own grassroots patients that we've seen during the this week. It's been a beautiful week here at Grassroots Healthcare. The weather's been great. And our patients have been looking at moving into better versions of themselves. And so over the past month, we had been laying some groundwork for a couple of our patients, and they kind of surprised us when they came in this week, and we were very happy to hear such good results. And I want to share those with you today from two of our patients who went on sugar-free and processed and free of all processed foods diet detox for just 21 days. We've also had 3 more patients who have begun a liver cleanse with one of our physicians here in town, Dr. Michele. She came and did a lecture last Saturday, a couple of Saturdays ago, excuse me, with 3 of our Grassroots Healthcare patients and myself and one of our staff members. And since then, our staff has decided to go on the paleo cleanse, and so many of us are starting that, and a few are lagging behind, but they intend to start in the next week, and we'll let you guys know next week how that goes. So for those of you who are new to our show, this is Grassroots Healthcare. We are a health and wellness clinic focused on getting our patients off of all medications that we possibly can, and trying to move patients into what we talked about earlier, a better version of themselves, feeling better, and moving away from being on so many drugs. It's my firm belief as a physician that many of the medications that we take are making us sicker, especially in the long run, that they're contributing to increased risk of diabetes and an increased risk for needing to purchase more expensive diabetic meds, and also increased risk of cancer. And so if at all possible, we can prevent illness with diet and nutrition. Those are the things that we're trying to educate our patients about and bring forward here at our clinic. That being said, we are a primary care clinic. I take care of grown-ups and little people. I'm an internal medicine physician and a pediatrician. We're located at 91st and Sheridan, right on the southeast corner. We're in a little strip mall with Duffy's and a few other companies here, and so you can see our sign from the street. So 6530 East 91st Street is our address. If you would like to make an appointment, our office number is 918-878-7733. In addition to being focused on health and wellness, we also accept no insurance, and this allows us to drastically lower our prices for our patients, and also many of our lab tests are priced at a very affordable rate. And so if you find yourself without insurance, or if you have a very high deductible, we might just be the best clinic for your pocketbook as well as for your health and wellness. So we would love to be part of your journey toward health. And so if that fits, that description fits you or anybody that you know, please send them our way. We'd love to have you in our clinic. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping about the show. As you watch the show, you may notice that underneath where the show is being viewed, if you're watching this later tonight or if you're on the show right now, watching us live, there's a place for comments, and these are the things that fuel future content of our shows and the things that we produce. So any comments, questions, suggestions that you have, we'd be very open to hearing what those are. Even the tough questions, we want to handle those things that our patients may not be able to find an answer to through traditional medicine. And we want to be able to help point the way towards a different way of thinking about what's going on in your body. So any questions that you have, please address them to me through the website. You can get a hold of me more confidentially if you want to through our Grassroots website too. You can private message us through there. But if you have things that you'd like for us to deal with on the show or respond to, even if you're watching this show later, we'll see those and respond to them, and they may help us come back and address future things. So with that in mind, I do want to congratulate one of our recent participants in the show. Gail requested that he be the patient who would receive one of our detox cleanses, and so I wanted to let him know that that came in from our last week's episode. Jamie Cividon was on with us, and she shared with us some easier ways to eat clean through her company, which is Arbonne. They have a great pea protein powder and a great boot camp that helps with support, and they've had lots of people come off of medications and live a healthier life. And the shakes that they do and some of the supplements that they do are excellent. That in this busy lifetime, it's hard to make it to the grocery store several times a day, and it's a great way to avoid the fast food temptations that come when you're out working at lunch and you haven't had time to make or brought your lunch or haven't pre-planned. And so she has some really great products, and you can refer back to one of our previous shows 2 weeks ago that aired with Jamie Cividon, and she's going to be helping one of our staff, Amy, and then Gail, who won as from the Grassroots. His package came in today. I'm sending out an email today, Gail, but if you're watching the show and you get this, please drop by the office anytime before 6 tonight or 10 to 2 tomorrow and pick up, or next week. We're open from 8:30 to 6 every day. And we're closed from 11:30 to 12:30 for lunch, and then through the month of April we'll be here from 10 to 12 for after hours on Saturday. So if you need to come in and pick that up anytime, Gail, or if any of the rest of you need to know our hours, those are the hours here at Grassroots Healthcare. So I wanted to congratulate him from the last week's show. So moving on, I want to get a little bit more in-depth into our topic. At Grassroots Healthcare, one of the things that I've noticed as I've been working here, and when I worked many years in the urgent care over at Warren Clinic, and also over at Premier Urgent Care, both of them are excellent urgent cares, and I would advise any of my patients to that are having problems or having an emergency to head that direction if we're not available. Or if you have insurance and your deductible is not high, those are great places to go. But as I worked over there, I happened to notice that several patients a day would come through, and I began to pay attention to how many of the women were on thyroid hormone, because I thought it was more pronounced than what I had been taught in medical school. There's quite a bit of endocrine problems. We all know that diabetes is on the rise, that more and more patients are coming down with type 2 diabetes, and we've attributed that to lifestyles and foods that we eat. But I don't think that anyone's quite made the connection that a lot of other illnesses that we see may have been given rise to by some of the types of food that we're eating and how it may be poisoning our system. We have a system that takes care of our hormonal balance and our nervous system, and that controls some of the more basic things that go on in our body. Things such as our heart rate, and all these things work together to make the body system function appropriately. And so anything that affects or attacks that system can cause a myriad of symptoms, and many of these are non-specific. For instance, you can have a fast heart rate, but we don't know, we may not know where that's coming from as a physician when you present with that fast heart rate, but it could be coming from things that are as common as a heart arrhythmia, that's a disturbance directly from the heart. But it could also be coming from an underlying food allergy that isn't giving you all the other symptoms, such as hives and things like that. These are very difficult things to discover, and a lot of times they get thrown into, unfortunately, a sack of symptoms that have like fast heart rate or sweating or feeling weak, because they're so nonspecific, will get thrown into, well, the patient's anxious, or the patient's feeling sad or depressed, they're not sleeping well at night. And that may be the case, but a lot of us as physicians were never trained how to get to the bottom of those things. They're so nonspecific, and they can fit almost any disease category, and you can do a huge expensive workup with the common labs that we have available to our fingertips as physicians and still not find out exactly what's wrong with the patient. And those patients frequently, especially women, will wind up on antidepressants or things like that. So that, coupled with the fact that I had been seeing so many women with thyroid problems, which frequently is an autoimmune disorder where the body is seen to be forming antibodies that may be attacking their own gland system, and it has a lot to do with inflammation, and we're learning it has a lot more to do even with allergies or a adverse reaction to things that we're being exposed to, either in the air or in our water or in our food supply. So all those things can work together, and when enough problems build up in our body that our body can't take it anymore, then that's when it begins to start spilling over, and that's when we begin to see our first symptoms. One of the first symptoms that we see for women presenting with a diagnosis of anxiety, and they can be treated several different ways, is that they'll show up in the emergency department with heart palpitations or a fast heart rate, but not know why. And that will lead on to, maybe they're having more trouble sleeping at night, then they'll start feeling more anxious during the day. And it's the most common reason for women to be put on things like Xanax or to be put on an antidepressant to calm their anxiety down, because most antidepressants also work for anxiety. These medications also, Xanax for one, will cause an increased risk for Alzheimer's disease. And that news has just been released here within the last several months. Any of the benzodiazepines, Valium, Xanax, clonazepam, or Klonopin's the other name for that, any of these, Restoril, Alprazolam, can cause are causing increased risk for memory problems, brain fog, and ultimately dementia and Alzheimer's disease in our patients. So these medicines, while they take away our anxiety, they are also doing that just by kind of numbing our brain. And to me, that is not healing, a healing work. That is basically palliative care, which we use that word whenever we're talking about a cancer patient who we don't believe will survive. We make them comfortable. And I'm not okay with that, and I don't think my patients are okay with that. So if you come into my clinic and you want to be seen for those kind of symptoms, we'll do everything we can to make you comfortable if that's what you want to do. But we also need to be able to find the underlying cause of what's going on. And so in the best interest of you and in my other patients, I want to be very upfront with my patients and let them know, look, if I'm giving you a medication, we need to be looking for the underlying cause. And if you're not interested in that, this may not be the clinic for you. And so that's kind of how we approach illness at this clinic. We are glad to start patients on medications if necessary, but we always tell you some other things that you can do to eliminate the need for those medications. And I'm not saying that no one needs those medicines. Please don't misquote me, or that no one needs an antidepressant. But almost every time that I've seen a patient, there has been something else that we can address to help improve their quality of life, so they either need less medication or can come off of some of the medications. And that's what our goal is here at this clinic. So this is what kind of started me on the whole idea of how can we get our patients better, and what could be causing some of the things that's going on with our patients. And the neuroendocrine system is something that I'm very passionate about. We do help our patients and try to support their hormonal system, the whole neuroendocrine system. We're trying to do that as natural as we can. We use a lot of bioidentical hormones, but our goal, our true goal underlying all that is that we wouldn't even need to use that we can find ways to support the system to continue to make its own and not use the plant-based therapies. Anytime we start messing with your system, we also suppress some of the things that your body can make on its own, and that's not our goal at all. So one of the things that I found out this week, which is really great, and I want to share with you, is how some of my patients were able to lose weight and come off or avoid taking an antidepressant medication or an attention focusing medication, just by eliminating some of the toxins in their body. And I think that my patients will be really interested to hear. I've asked both of these patients if they minded me telling their stories on our show today, and they both agreed that they would not mind me putting it on, Facebook, as long as we didn't, identify who they were. And so I want to share with you first, for those of you who are nursing moms out there, or pregnant, having any symptoms of depression or anxiety that you may be feeling, this may be helpful to you. The first thing is the first patient that we had came in approximately 1 month ago, and she was having symptoms of lack of focus, kind of a brain fog, and also feeling very overwhelmed that she couldn't help her other children with their schoolwork or make it through the day without having more things left to do at the end of the day than she had had the day before, and just kind of feeling like life was overwhelming to her. She was tearful. She thought maybe she needed something for her attention or for her focus. And so during the visit, we talked about some different ways that we could treat depression, and I did end up giving her an antidepressant to take. But something about the visit, and I don't really recall what it was right at this moment, triggered my thought process to think perhaps, especially since she was nursing, rather than use medication, it would be better for her to try coming off of some of the foods that may be toxic. So I suggested a 21-day detox. Most of us can do something for 21 days. So I suggested we try it for 21 days and then reevaluate at the end of it and see what happens. And so she did try the antidepressant at first, and like Dr. Michele, who has come over and trained some of our patients in doing detox, says you can't outpill a bad diet. The patient did not feel well on the antidepressant, and so she decided to go ahead and take the plunge and do the 21-day detox. So she looked some things up on the internet and decided to go off all sugar, gluten, processed foods, and she avoided soy and dairy. And her remarks to me were that hopefully she'd be able to come back on to, a few of those things. She wasn't sure, but she wanted to try to, at the beginning, eliminate as much as she possibly could. So she did that for 21 days. And I forgot about her. Between the time that she had left and came back, I was busy seeing patients. So when she showed up in my office last week, and I came into the room, and she had lost 17 pounds, but she hadn't even been here for weight loss, and said that her brain fog was gone and that she no longer felt depressed or needed an antidepressant, and that changing her diet had really, really changed her life, and that she hadn't felt this good in years. My ears perked up, and I laughed and told several of my patients this week, and my staff was like, I felt like the girl on Dirty Dancing when she didn't do the lift, and so she had to do the funny arm motions because there was a missing step. When the patient was time to leave, I'm used to giving them a medication or giving them a treatment, but she had gotten herself better. And so that was a super exciting day for me, kind of a landmark day here at Grassroots Healthcare for me, just to have that moment where my patient came in, they took the advice to be on the 21-day detox and felt so much better. Then we had another patient, a male patient, who came in, again, about a month ago, who presented with symptoms of inability to lose weight. He had gained some weight over the past year. He had gone through a divorce and had had some depression and lack of motivation, but he'd always been able to lose weight before easily. Now he was doing the same things that he'd been able to do before and lose weight, and they were no longer working, and so he was very frustrated with that. And so, again, I had suggested with him that we put him on the 21-day sugar detox. And he complied with that and came back in 3 weeks later and to reevaluate where he was. The patient had lost 20 pounds. And so that was exciting in and of itself. But the things I want you to hear are that the patient also described a clearing up of his brain fog, and the depression that he thought had been there from his divorce a year ago actually cleared as well. And that surprised the patient because that wasn't what he came in to be treated for. And so these are things I want to get out there to let you know that there are other ways besides taking a pill. And many times when we put a patient on an antidepressant, they'll put on weight. Most of the antidepressants will say that they're weight neutral, but in my experience, we've seen patients gain weight when they go on those medications, which further increases their risk for diabetes and needing to pay for an expensive diabetic drug further down the line. So don't get me wrong, when my patients come in, if they need a medication, we're willing and quite able to do that. But if there's other ways that we can get you cleared up more safely than putting you on a medication, no one's deficient in Xanax, no one's deficient in Prozac, but we could be deficient in different hormones, or we could be using up all of those great neurotransmitters that make us feel happy and combating some sort of a toxic reaction to things that we're taking into our bodies. So he just went on sugar-free, I think, and processed foods. So that entailed for the mom, she only did brown rice bread and brown rice tortillas. She I think there's a Canyon white bread that she had tried that's in the freezer section, frozen section, and I actually found that at Research and tried it, and I thought that was pretty good. The brown rice tortillas that I bought, I don't remember what brand they were, but they were difficult to maneuver. They kind of cracked and didn't really lend themselves well to wrapping up a burrito, but I've only tried one kind of the brown rice tortillas. But there's different ways to do these detoxes, and I'm very excited about the results my patients had, and I wanted to share them with you because I thought maybe that they would be something that you guys would be excited about too. So if there's any questions or comments, I wanted to go to those too to make sure. I'm going to refresh that. I think it usually refreshes itself, but I wanted to make sure we didn't have any new questions or comments. But anyone that wants to add any questions or comments later on this evening, please feel free to do that. We try to keep up with that on a day-to-day basis and get back to you. So one of the lectures that we had this past week was very enlightening to me. I got some great information, and again, want to share that with you. One of the lecturers that came in, Dr. Michele, had spoken to the patients about toxicity in our environment, in our water, in our food sources, and other places, and had really shared something that I hadn't really contemplated before. But what happens with our bodies is our liver is very necessary for cleaning out toxins, and so as soon as the gut gets exposed to something that is difficult for it to process, the gut becomes more inflamed, which means the cells get swollen, a little bit separated, and so there's more space in between the cells. And many of the toxins, or even just the food particles themselves, instead of passing through the cell itself, can actually pass through the space in between the cells and get directly shown to our bloodstream. That's never good, because then our bloodstream will recognize it as a foreign substance and make an antibody to that. And that causes increased inflammation throughout our whole body. And so many of our patients that we see that have rheumatologic disease, things with arthritic joints, skin disorders, those kind of things will be coming from that mechanism. Attack on the thyroid happens a lot of times if we get exposed to some antigen that looks like our thyroid, and then we form an antibody to that. It will also attack other things in our body that that antibody matches up to, and so that can increase our risk for autoimmune disorders. Just even from birth, from what we're feeding our children early on, this can happen, and we're seeing more and more children with food allergies coming in for epinephrine shots that they need to keep on hand in case they have a food allergy. Much of this, the mass bulk of this, could be greatly reduced, if not eliminated, by avoiding some of the toxins that are in our food. And we have to be diligent and watch, because they'll slip it in somewhere else. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But if we can try to get off of some of these things, I think that we'll see our patients clear up as far as a lot of their allergies go, and many of their chronic diseases. So Dr. Michele was teaching that as the food comes through the intestinal wall, the first place that it goes is the liver, and the bloodstream goes from the intestines to the liver. The liver clears out everything, and so it's going to clear out any toxins or things that our body doesn't need, and try to put that back through back through the system so it can be eliminated through the kidneys. Once the liver gets sick, and this happens frequently with my diabetic patients, one of the first things we'll see is elevated liver enzymes, and they'll begin to be pre-diabetic, or we'll ultrasound a liver of a pre-diabetic or a diabetic patient, and they'll have what's called fatty liver. And it's just inflammation of the liver, because the liver is beginning to get sick and toxic too. When the liver can no longer keep the blood clear of the toxins, those toxins are either going to go into our organs, which the main organs left are very necessary to survival: kidney, heart, brain, those organs. So in order to prevent those organs from getting toxic like the liver has gotten, our body begins to lay down layers of fat around those organs. And we've talked about it for years. Fat around the organs increases our risk for heart attack. Well, the fat, I never realized this, and this is the exciting thing, is that our bodies is laying down that fat as kind of a fake organ so that the blood can put the toxins into the fat instead of into our vital organs like our heart and our kidneys. So when the blood can no longer be cleared of toxins very well, that's when we start laying down this stubborn fat around our organs, around our middle, so that we have a place to deposit a lot of the toxins so that our blood will stay more clear and it will protect our organs. So many of us who carry extra weight have always thought, that there was something wrong with us, but it's really a protective mechanism. So once we can clean out our liver and get that working good, then we can alkalinize our body. Then we can begin to detox and get that out of the fat. But the stubborn fat that won't come off, it's because it's protecting us. And so we should love ourselves and begin to take care of our livers and begin to take care of our bodies so that we can get that off. So if you've been trying to lose weight but haven't been able to because you even if you're eating a low calories or you've really cut back, you've done everything you've done before, a lot of times it's because our body doesn't want to pour all that toxic fat back into our bloodstream. It's going to hurt our kidneys and our brain and our heart. And so if we can get the liver cleaned where it can begin to clean our blood efficiently again, get it cleared up from some of these other things, well, then we can begin to start losing some of the fat and get those things off. And so for people who are unable to lose weight with regular, just taking off the sugar and the processed foods and maybe the gluten, soy, dairy, those kind of things, the next step will be to do kind of a liver detox. And Dr. Oz has been talking about that for a long time, and many of the mainstream medical doctors have thought that that was a hoax or a fluke. It's not. It's the way our body's designed to work. And so anything we can do to get our bodies back to their natural state, including the things that we're putting in them, is going to help us to move toward a better version of ourselves. So it's time to start making choices towards a better version of ourselves. So with that in mind, Grassroots Healthcare is doing everything that we can for our patients. We have some cleanses here that you can do for 14 days or 21 days that Dr. Michele has taught on, and we're going to have another class coming up at the end of, hopefully I think it's the second Saturday in May, hopefully. That's the plan. So if you'd like to be included or have an email or a Facebook message sent to you, please respond to this to come to that hour-long class. It's very, very informative. Again, the information that you learn there will help you to detox your body you don't necessarily have to buy the products, although she has great detox products and vitamins that you can use. You can detox yourself other ways, but the information about how and why this works is just phenomenal. She's just a wonderful, wonderful, engaging speaker. And so I'd love any of my patients or any of my viewers are in the close, see her, see what she does, see what some of the cleanse is that she offers, so that you can see if it'll help you begin to change your metabolism and lose weight. And so those things are helpful tools that we want to put in your hands. At the same time, we're very open to supporting you any way that you want to do a detox. Please bring it up to us. We'll be glad to help you with that and find out some different things and how it works for you. I'm interested in anything that's been working for different ones of my patients. All of us are in this together. We want to support each other. Many of us need different things. And so one of the things that I spoke about this week with a friend of mine from Chicago who is going to be on our show today, and we had a few technical difficulties, so she's going to join us here in the next few weeks, was how to listen to our bodies. And so she's an intuitive coach, and she kind of has gone on this sugar-free detox, and she was my inspiration initially to go on it in the first place. And so she's going to be sharing with us some ways to listen to our bodies and find out what things work for us. Not everybody needs to be gluten-free. Not everybody needs to do these things. One of the good things that we did learn from some of our patients this week too was just that We have a patient who does a craniosacral therapy, and she's been on this journey as well. And she was saying how when you heal up, you don't really need a as strict of a diet later on. You know, initially your gut's so inflamed that you may be allergic to more things or have a toxic reaction to more things than what you normally would. Just like if your skin has a burn on it. Normally a lotion feels good on your skin, a moisturizer of some sort. But if the normal way that that skin is supposed to function has been damaged, some of the same things that can be very healing to your skin will be caustic to it, because it's got this, the superficial layers are removed, and so that chemical is not being altered correctly before it touches it. It'll sting, it'll burn, it'll make the rash worse. Same thing with your gut. If your gut's inflamed, foods that normally wouldn't bother it, that it could process normally, it won't process normally, and so they're going to exacerbate the problem. So some patients may need to go on a really strict diet for, you know, a certain amount of time, and then as their gut begins to heal and their bodies begin to heal, and as our livers begin to get cleared, then certain things that aren't really toxic to us, if we're getting them from a source that we know is clean and pure, those things can come back into our diet later on. So what I'd encourage each one of you to do is to consider going on a 21-day, either some sort of cleanse. Listen to your body, see how it feels. You'll intuitively know if you just take a few deep breaths and listen to yourselves. You'll intuitively know, you know, how strict that you need to be, at least to start with, and what you can stand. And do like a 21-day, a detox of some sort, either sugar-free with no processed foods, or sugar-free, no processed foods. Maybe you want to add gluten in. I'd recommend that especially for those of you who are more fair-skinned or who have the red-headed gene like we do, the gingers. But consider doing those kind of things. And if you're not seeing things move, or if you have great results, either way, let us know, see what we can do to help support you in that. We have a Pinterest website if you're interested, Grassroots Healthcare. Mikey has pinned up a sugar-free recipe for us there with no added sugar for making for home. And for this recipe, she used some almond flour and a way to make kind of chicken tenders. I think they're Italian chicken tenders that you can make. So it uses coconut oil and some different things that we can make better choices with for our cooking that maybe we'll be able to get our kids to eat. Because that's always a challenge, and those are some of the things that we want to deal with. Also, I wanted to go over with you guys for the next show that we're having. I'm going to have a guest on my show who was a former patient of ours. She's moved away, but just somehow through the whole process of the way our clinic has changed, even though she moved away, she benefited from that. Maybe it was the law of entanglement, I'm not sure, but she also began a sugar-free journey where she lives out in Arizona and has had similar results. So she was a patient of ours who had autoimmune disorder and was needing to be on medications that cause increased risk for cancer, and on medications that cause increased risk for stomach bleeding, increased risk for bone mineral deterioration, increased risk for diabetes and weight gain. And so she was able to come off all these medications simply by changing her diet. And she was added to the group that I'm part of on my Facebook. It's just a support group called Beautiful Sugar-Free Me. And Sarah Solman kind of headed that group up and was my inspiration. And so she's also going to be joining us. So all three of us, someone from Arizona and Chicago, should be on our show here in 2 weeks. And Sarah's the intuitive coach that I was telling you about. She's going to share with us some things about listening to our bodies. And she created a great sugar-free me support site on Facebook where many people have joined in, and many of my friends on Facebook have kind of come into the program. And originally, and even still, it's just got such a beautiful way to support each person, because each one of us may have different ways that we're altering our diet, but just supporting ourselves and making healthy choices every day. It's not about, oh, I blew my healthy choice today, so I'm just going to eat whatever I want today. No, we've also noticed that if we eat something that isn't on our plan, A lot of times our joints get more inflamed, or we feel older, feel more achy, or maybe have stomach discomfort. And so it's just been a really great way for us to share recipes, share ideas, and just be supportive of each other and choosing things that lead to, again, better versions of ourselves, or as my favorite mentor says, our best good. So that's what we're looking for here at Grassroots for you, our viewers, all of our patients, all of our staff, our families, is our best good. And that's the intention that we send out to you. So that's our show for today. Again, please list any comments or questions you have so it can guide us in future productions of the show. And as my favorite radio program always says at the end of their show, I want to always add that on the end of mine until I find something better. So that's our week here at Grassroots Healthcare, where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average. Thank you for joining our show.